Well, ladies and gents, we are back after almost 2 weeks off, and sorry about the delay, but plenty of big news here in New England as the New England Patriots have fired for head coach Gerard Mayo after just one season at the helm. We will break down how that happened, and I will do mostly a victory lap on that, to be honest. Then we'll discuss the likely replacement being former Patriots linebacker and former Tennessee head coach Mike Vrabel. Only two other head coaches have been fired thus far after the regular season has concluded, but there are six jobs open, so we will discuss all those opportunities as well. And finally, it's the NFL playoffs this week. Crap football is finally over with. We're just a few days away from Wild Card Weekend. We will make our previews and picks for those six games as well, so stay tuned starting in a few. Oh, and by the way, stay tuned to the end of the show because we will have some thoughts on betting lines as well. Josh Morris has fought off laryngitis. He's back on the show in an all new episode of The Toronto, and it starts right now. First of all, what the hell are you talking about, dude? Second of all, okay, I think I understand what you're talking about. What you're saying is that you took the words right out of my mouth. I didn't say it, but you said it for me. You, Gerard Mayo, sir, are so far in over your head. Just freaking, you should resign. You should resign. Sorry, we went on vacation in 2019, and I said he's gotta be my coach. Okay, fine. He picked him 5 years ago. You know what Robert Kraft did after that? You want to know what he did after? He went to the Orchids of Asia. He was gallivanting at the Orchids of Asia. He was getting happy endings in a massage parlor from, let's be polite, professional masseuses. Welcome to Toronto. During the bye week, they practiced one time. That's it. Well, folks, welcome back in. It's been almost 2 weeks, but it's the Toronto Dome, and we're finally back. I don't know if I got a little lazy there or what it is, Josh. Maybe I just didn't want to talk about Week 18 and mostly crap bag football. By the way, Josh Morris is kind enough to join us back on the show again. He's gotten over a brief battle with what was going on with you anyway?
Just yelling at my kids too much. That's what it is.
Well, that sounds terrible. Maybe you should rephrase that. So what was going on with you?
No, seriously, one of them got hurt the other night. I just started freaking out, screaming.
So the kid gets hurt and then you make it worse by yelling at it.
Oh, dude, come on! Your dad never did it. It's a dad thing.
Oh no, my dad used to. Yeah, no,
you get so scared that you yell at them because it comes back to if they just listened, they'd probably never get hurt. But
I told you not to do that. I told you not to run
right,
the door.
it's always something that my wife and I previously warned them. We foreshadowed to them like, hey, maybe don't do that. And then they're like, the Italian hello, like, hey. And I'm like, okay, thank you. And then, my kid smashes her head into the wall and I'm like, yeah. And I just start screaming.
That toughens them up though.
Yeah, exactly. Then I come back to earth and I'm like, are you okay? Are you okay?
Your oldest is 5, right?
She'll be 6 in 12 days.
Wow. So the long-term memory of you trying to tell them ahead of time, this is what's going to happen. That's really sticking with them at 5, 3, and 2.
I yelled at them Saturday night. Sunday morning, they did not leave their playroom. They stayed in there. I was like, see, it worked a little.
Well, hey, listen. No, I'm not qualified to tell him how to parent his kids, folks, because I have no children. I just have 2 stupid black cats. So anyway, welcome into the show again, my friend. I am hoping that you can join me every week of the playoffs this year. I have done that in the past with other people that I am no longer speaking with. But that doesn't mean the same thing will happen with you, my friend. As long as you don't screw me out of money that you owe me, everything should be fine. So, but I'll have to start paying you because we got a little surprise coming up very soon on one of these next couple episodes here, but we are about to hit a big, big milestone for the Toronto Dome. So stay tuned for that. But if I may, the Patriots have fired head coach Gerard Mayo after just one season. And you would think that I would be taking a ginormous victory lap over the situation. And I will, but it's kind of sad in a way because it's like it's done now. It's over with. It's done now. You could tell the guy was clearly in over his head. I was calling it back in training camp. It turns out that was happening well before training camp from players in the locker room. We'll get to that. But on his way out the door, and trust me when I tell you, the Patriots did play their second and third stringers in this game. So it's like 90% on him. But On the way out the door, the New England Patriots come into week 18 with the number one pick in this year's draft. This draft is not heavy with top end talent coming up here in April. That's just a fact. It's not. They have the number one pick and they already have their franchise quarterback. Lose the game, you have the number one pick and you control so many things in that draft. You can have you know how many trade offers you're going to get for that number one pick where you can anyway, long story short, Patriots win the damn game. They win the damn game 23-16 over Buffalo. The Buffalo Bills were happy to let them win that game, by the way.
And lose my bet. And lose my bet.
And Josh lost his bet. Remind me of the bet.
I bet the Patriots have the worst record in the NFL.
And they should have. And they should have. They deserve to have the worst record in the NFL.
I will say, though, going back to our first episode, I did say sneaky candidate to be the worst team was the Tennessee Titans. So I will take a little victory lap on that one.
Yeah, he wants to make sure he gets his credit, too, because
That's
he's
right.
not getting a lot of airtime at the beginning of the show. So I'm just letting you know now. And I do remember that as well. In fact, I think we were supposed to go back and do this. I'm just remembering now as we're doing this show to keep it current. But we were supposed to match our records up versus what we predicted back in September. So, how about we do that maybe during the week in between, the championship games and the Super
week.
Bowl. Yeah, that's right. That week where we're all just waiting for something to happen. So we will cover that. But Josh, absolutely, I remember him saying that. Said the Titans could very well, and they honestly should have tied with the worst record at 3-14. The Patriots would have been worse because they had the better strength of schedule, all that. But and they lost to Tennessee. So go figure. That's why I still say the Patriots were the worst, and they were. I think on balance they were the worst team. But anyway,
you hit your bet though. You hit your bet.
Oh yeah, great. So I put $100 down that the Pats would go under 5 wins, under 4.5. The over/under was 4.5. You know how hard it is to lay down a C note and to tell me they're only going to win 4 out of 17 games, and they did it again. They did it 2 years in a row. Last year, that number was 7.5. It was much easier to bet the under last year. 4.5 this year. They end up 4-13. But in the process, they lose the number one pick because 3 other teams did what they were supposed to do. Oh, it looks like we're kind of trying, but you can take it.
And all 3 of those teams need a quarterback.
All 3 of those teams need a quarterback.
You would have had them.
You had them buy the grapefruits. You would have had them buy the cojones, is what he's saying. And he's right. And I don't mean to keep running over you. I think it's been 2 weeks. I'm excited. By the way, this is my Jerod Mayo jersey, and you'll never see me wear this again. But yeah, Cleveland, Tennessee, and the Giants, all of them desperately need a quarterback. They all did what they were supposed to do, even against opponents that were resting their starters. Not Baltimore did it, and it might have cost them with Zay Flowers, but Philadelphia, Giants opponent, resting their starters. And Tennessee's opponent, Houston, obviously was resting their starters, and yet Dameon Pierce is running away on a 92-yard touchdown run, and the Titans defenders are like, then they shove him into the end zone. It's like, okay, there's an artful way of doing it. But on the way out the door, Jerod Mayo said, nope, I'm coaching them up. They're going to play hard. Don't know if we expected Joe Milton, the 6th-round pick with a cannon for an arm, went out there, had the second hardest throw in NFL history on a touchdown to Demario Douglas that didn't look like it had a chance in hell. That's a promising development, and that's a story for a later day with the Patriots. Did not know Joe Milton was going to go out and ball out, but he did. Pats lose the game. To me, and now let me get into these notes here. Mayo's body language on the sidelines. I don't know if you got a chance to watch this game. You probably didn't. I know you had a busy weekend. And I'm sorry for, what's going on, with the family and everything. I know it's been tough for you guys, so I just want to acknowledge that. Josh, I appreciate it.
Thank you.
Yeah, no problem. And again, I'm sorry for your losses. But I was able to catch all of this game here, especially at the end. But Mayo's body language on the sidelines, clearly that of a man who was going to be fired. He knew it. He was like dead man walking out there. You could just tell. Oh, but at the end of the game when they won it, I get a little half smile from Jerod. So that's great. So within 90 minutes of ending the game, and I don't think I've ever seen this before. Have you?
And that's how you know they knew.
They knew. They knew before the game. And
You
turns
can't get
out,
a press release out that early.
no, that bad boy was ready to go. That just hit send. That thing was in the draft folder, ready to go. Bam, hit send. I've never seen a head coach get fired that quickly
No.
after a game to end a
Like all
season.
the 4 o'clock games are still going.
Oh yeah, no, like I said, it was 90. It was like 90. I don't even think it was 90 minutes after the Pats finished their game, right around 4. Those
Hmm.
4 o'clock games were just hitting halftime, maybe not even. And I can't believe that you would take a chance if you knew this guy was a lame duck. And I'm sorry, I get it. You want to show like an ounce of respect to the guy and let him finish the season. He just set your franchise back by 2 or 3 more years because you could have had the #1 pick and you could have told any one of those top teams because guess what? The Raiders at 6, they need a quarterback too. You could have told them the same thing. Give me your best offer. Give me your best offer. You could have got multiple. You could have got another first rounder in this year's draft. You
And
could have got a
second
first
or a
rounder.
third.
Could have got a first next year. You could have got a second or a third this year or next year. You could have done so much. What would Bill Belichick do? Hate to say it. What would Bill Belichick do?
Trade down.
Exactly. But anyone would have traded down in that spot.
Well,
They had
especially
no
because, like you just said, you're not taking a quarterback.
right. And I mean, do I think that Shador Sanders is a #1 pick worthy talent? I don't. I personally
No,
don't.
most people are saying Cam Ward at this point.
Right, the Cam Ward too. I know he's impressed as well. But you don't have that problem because you lucked into Drake May at 3 last year, and it's going to work out for you, I think. But you got to start putting stuff around him. And now we're doing a reset. We're doing it all over again. The next day, Robert Kraft admits that they started thinking about firing him the entire month leading up to that game. You know when that coincided with? I'll tell you when it coincided. The Arizona game where they went out west and they quit. They didn't show up. There was a ball that Drake May put on Kayshon Boutte that he just tipped up in the air and it magically fell to a Cardinals defender, and then he blamed May for it after the game. And check this out. What we found out after this game, it's come out, I think it just came out this morning. Mayo stopped watching film with his assistants on the plane ride home in that game. He went to the back of the plane and started playing cards with the players. So he wasn't taking it seriously anymore because he was in way over his head of, I don't know what to do. Just throw your hands up in the air, go play cards. That's what I would do. I'm not a head coach. It's an embarrassment. It's a total joke of an organization. Kraft said he made the situation untenable and put Mayo in an unfair spot when he simply wasn't ready for the head coaching job. And of course, the leaks begin a day after Mayo was let go. And I'm sorry, Josh. I know I'm just blowing through you here, but this one is kind of a big, this is we're New England at home, right? So it feels like it's 10 degrees outside. You know what I mean? My sister just flew in from Florida. She said she had the worst flight of her life. She said it was so windy, the turbulence was incredible. She's like, I'm gonna get sick as soon as I get out the door. All this stuff. So it's winter in New England. Another coach has been fired. I think they actually waited a day to fire Bill Belichick. I think they waited until like Tuesday or something last
Yeah, I
year.
think it was a couple days. Like they kind of because you knew they were parting ways. So I think they kind of said we're going to give him his own day. We're not going to fire him with every other crap bad coach that gets fired. They waited, I think, either till that Tuesday or it might have even been Wednesday. And
Yeah,
then,
I remember it being at least a couple
and
days.
then it was mutually parting ways. It wasn't even like we're firing him. Like we've
Yeah,
decided to separate. You know what I mean?
that was about the only courteous thing that they did for Belichick on his way
Yeah,
out.
'cause they still trampled him on the way out.
Yeah, they did. And then, the dynasty comes out, and it's not even about the dynasty. It's not about the successes of the team. Half of it's just ripping the crap out of Bill. Bill's weird. Bill's a meanie. Bill's a meanie. Well, Kraft Productions. So there you go. Glad that they didn't hire me like 12 years ago. Wait a minute. No, you guys can still hire me if you want, but um you won't. If you go back and watch the episodes from this season, there's no way Kraft's organization would ever hire me. Um but yeah, it's true that Mayo was put, in an unfair spot. But check this out. You remember, Mike Giardi, right? Longtime Patriots reporter, used to be on Comcast with Tom Curran. Very good, I think. Used to be on the NFL Network. For some reason keeps getting passed up on jobs. I don't know why. Very good. I always thought so. This one is from Mike Giardi. This is a quote that he had written in some publication somewhere, but this is the quote. Here's the quote. One vet told me I lost faith where we were headed in the right direction. I asked when. He said in the spring. I said why? He says it felt like he slash they, means Mayo and the coaches, were making it up as they went along. It was amazing how one day it would be this and the next day it would be something completely different. So, oh, and another added, I'm sorry, quote, it became more about looking myself in the mirror and the guys in my room and my huddle and saying, I'm leaving it out here for you because I never believed we had an edge in coaching. What an awful position. And these guys, it's not like these players are super, it wasn't a super talented roster. And even they're going out there and they're going, we're being thrown to the wind here. These guys have no clue how to put a game plan together, how to structure a practice routine. I said it throughout the season, Josh. Like I said it over and over. I'm like, what does this team do week to week consistently? Well, they don't. I don't even look like. It doesn't even look like they practice. I mean, how many times? I don't know how many times I've said that.
And like I had sent you a screenshot of the person that I know inside the craft group, and he slash she said that he wasn't ready for the big time. Like, and he knew that well ahead of time.
I think that Mayo probably knew that too. But here's the problem, and this is a situation that the Crafts have created. So yes, I took a dump on Gerard Mayo all season long, but this is on the Crafts because here's what Robert did to this guy. Mayo, 38 years old, never even been a coordinator. Never even been a coordinator, but we went on a trip to the Holy Land in 2019, and I said, Gerard's gotta be my next coach. Bill Belichick was signed through the 2024 season. They dumped him a year early. They put Gerard Mayo in a year too early, and look at the results. Because
and then you also have first-time coordinators. Like, where are the veteran coaches that can kind of help him? Like everyone's first year.
yeah,
You know
and
what I mean? Like he should have been looking at, and this might be that no one wanted those jobs, but like his coordinator should have been either ex-head coaches who now need to come back and like earn a spot,
yeah,
or coaches that have been coordinators for a while so they could kind of show him the ropes.
oh, absolutely. And I mean, same principle, not to cross sports. I know we don't like to cross sports, just as Felge says or whatever, but it's my show, damn it. But Joe Mazzulla, year one to year two, what was the biggest difference?
All those assistants.
Surrounded by experienced guys that all of them are about to be head coaches just in some
Mhm.
capacity, right? It already happened with one of them. Didn't he get
Right,
poached?
the guy that went to the Hornets, right?
That's right. That's right. And Sam Cassell's going to be a head coach before too
I'm
long, I
surprised.
assume.
I honestly thought he would have been the one
Me
that
too.
left.
I think we all just love Sam Cassell for some reason, though. I don't know if it's because he looks like an alien or because he was on the
Definitely looks
championship
like
team.
he's the
He
weirdest.
looks like an alien, but the great listen. But that was the difference. And
For
the
sure.
most
Because that first year he had no one on his bench. He had no one.
no, exactly. And you could tell at times, like it was like overwhelming. He didn't know how to make any adjustments. There was no structure in their game.
Mm.
And it got so much better last year in year two, and they win the championship. So, I think that but anyway, that's the Celtics. That's a conversation for another day. And believe me, there will be
But
plenty of
but
days.
I think it holds true because again, young coach who's never done it, like I'm sure Missoula that first year was making some of it up as he went.
Sure.
Right? Because if you've never came in contact with those obstacles.
He never was an assistant or anything at the NBA level. He did coach D2 in college. So,
Mm.
I mean, that's something,
And
right? That's much more than Gerard Mayo
did he
had on
coach
his
in Maine?
resume.
Was he an assistant up in Maine?
Yeah, yeah. Oh, yeah, you're right. Yeah, you're right. Yeah, but he
But I
also
mean, it's still not the big time.
no. So yeah, I mean, it would have helped. I mean, the most experienced guy they had around Mayo was Alex Van Pelt, and that's just because Van Pelt was only like 1 year coordinator. I think it's after. Yeah, it was with Flacco last year. They made a switch and they put Van Pelt in as coordinator when Flacco went on that huge run with Cleveland. But he was the only one that ever had any kind of coordinating experience. So it showed. It absolutely showed. Another thing that came out too was that apparently Steve Belichick was offered the chance to stay on, but he was going to get a demotion from Gerard Mayo. So Steve Belichick went and became the D coordinator at Washington, who had just been in the
Now he's
national
probably going to be the next
championship.
coach of UNC. So
Most likely because Bill we're going to get into this in a little bit, but Bill's going to come up again a little bit later in the show because I'm not so sure that he's actually going to coach UNC like ever, but we shall see. Um, so yeah, players felt the same way I did in training camp. They saw it even sooner than I did, but I was right all along. Clueless, clueless. And again, I think that starts from all the way at the top, not just Gerard. If you think about it, the Crafts have never even done a proper coaching search in the last 25 years. Not even in the last 25. You want to go further? The last 28 years, because there was no Rooney rule back then. So they just can pluck Parcells, you can pluck Carroll, pluck Belichick. They've never done this because now what's happening is they bring in Byron Leftwich, they bring in Pep Hamilton. Byron Leftwich has some credible experience, by the way, and Pep Hamilton's been a coordinator for a long time.
Yeah,
But
he won with Brady, right, in Tampa Bay. That was
that's
his first.
correct. Yeah, yeah, that's right. Yeah, exactly. Um, he was the offensive coordinator, but still,
I mean,
Super Bowl winning
if you're a Pats
coordinator.
fan, you know they're not getting the neither one of them are getting the job.
Well, that's the problem. That's the exact problem. They're like, oh, let's squeeze them in and get these two, just magically happens to be two interviews with black head coach candidates on like Tuesday. And we're going to interview the guy we're really going to hire on Thursday. Because
Yeah,
not only do they put in Mike Vrabel's interviewing on Thursday, they put in a request to talk to Lions offensive coordinator Ben Johnson too. And it doesn't look like they're even going to interview him because how does Vrabel leave Foxborough without the job? Also, Brian Flores, your former defensive coordinator here, a guy that was a good head coach, but admittedly burned his bridges in Miami. But according to a lot of sources around the league, Brian Flores, first of all, went to Pittsburgh, made them an elite defense again. He's gone to Minnesota. He's made them pretty good too. As a defensive coordinator, apparently he's learned his lessons. He said he's interested in the Pats job. Talk to Brian Flores. At least give him a freaking interview, and they're not even going to do it. He said they
I mean,
hasn't heard from him.
he won 9 games with Miami that year, where like Ross, the owner, was trying to tank.
Yeah, it was tank for Tua. Yeah. So that season, his first season, well, I think that was after they put Tua in like halfway through for Fitzpatrick
Yeah,
for like 6 games. But the year before that, they were taking for Tua, right? And they ended up winning like 3 out of their last 4 games or something at the end of that year because they had gotten so much better. They still got lucky to land Tua because Tua had his injuries in his last year of college or whatever. So they still landed him. I think it was number 5 overall, and then Herbert went number 6. Yeah. But yeah. So oh my God, this league is so stupid sometimes. It's so dumb. I don't understand it.
I mean, you mentioned the Pats not doing like a proper like interviewing process. They're about to do it again.
Yeah, no, exactly.
Right,
That's
because don't get
exactly
me wrong,
right.
if you're a Pats fan, you probably love Vrabel for what he did, and he's a good head coach.
Sure.
If you have this young quarterback, your offensive coordinator for the past couple years has been, don't you want an offensive head coach?
I've been telling people this. I was telling people this Sunday afternoon. I kind of would want Flores first, to tell you the truth. Just because I just for some reason I think Flores would do a better job. Then I would either him or Ben Johnson because yes, we've got the quarterback, right? Give me Ben Johnson and Drake May together and let's see what the hell happens. You know what I mean? Like that could really, just take things off for you. And they're probably not even going to give the guy a real interview. And by the way, Ben Johnson accepted the interview request. So,
So
I
he
think,
must see potential there.
yeah, absolutely.
Because last year he didn't even he said no, I'm staying in
Yeah,
Detroit.
he stayed put. Yeah.
Right. So this year he's willing to take these interviews. So the teams he's taking interviews with, he must see potential.
Yeah, because he did also accept an interview request from the Bears. And if you look at the Bears, they have everything they need except for a coaching staff and an offensive line. So I mean, personally, I might be a little biased here because of this right here. But I kind of think May has better long-term potential. I think he's got it better up here than Williams does. I think Williams is kind of a baby. And I think
I will say I think Williams is as soft as Sharman. So
it's exactly. He's 10 ply. So, I mean, that's why you'd rather have Drake May, a guy that gets concussed in the middle of a game and still tries to come back in. He did it multiple times this year. Um, just one more thing, if I may, on Mayo, and we're just kind of burying Gerard here. And I got this $200 jersey for $50 for a reason this year. Okay. Just one more to kind of throw the dirt on the pile and like say sayonara. And I know some people some people I know even have said, yeah, this guy's never going to get a head coaching job again. He might not. But I
Wait,
think he'll get a shot. Sorry.
I think you're right because you look at what happened to Steve Wilkes, David Culley, a lot of these coaches that are 1 year, one and done. And like you said, he's never been a coordinator. So usually what happens is if you get fired from a head coaching job, you need to go back, be a coordinator, prove that you can be a coordinator again. But he's never been a coordinator.
Right.
So now he's got to try to find a job where someone's going to trust him to call defensive plays when he's technically never done it.
He's never done it because Steve Belichick called the defensive plays. So yeah, he's going to go way, way, way back.
So what are we thinking? Linebackers coach? He's going to have a long road if he wants
Right.
to get to that
And
position.
what's nuts, if you remember, like there were teams that wanted to interview Mayo like a couple of years ago.
Carolina.
Carolina was one, and then basically the Robert Kraft blocked it. They signed him to that weird new contract where it basically said he's the next head coach. And they did like a whole piece on it. I think they released out to social media. It was really the whole thing was just bungled by the Crafts from the jump. Um, One last thing on Mayo, though, just to kind of more reiterate my point, really, than anything else. But Mayo, according to team sources with knowledge of the situation, struggled with discipline and how to enforce it. If you remember, this one's fresh in the memory bank. Before the Patriots' Week 17 game against the Chargers, he told broadcast crews that he was going to bench running back Ramondre Stevenson because of his recent fumbles. But when it was time to do so, he had a change of heart and let the running back start. There it is. I don't know what happened with that. I still don't know what happened with that, a team source said. Honestly, Gerard is a good guy. I just don't think he was ready for all the decisions and discipline and focus that the job takes. These are all pretty damning. I mean, it's not like Terry Francona getting blown out of Boston damning, but it's this stuff is pretty bad. Ultimately, though, to answer your question that you're probably going to ask me, it starts and it ends with Robert Kraft, Jonathan Kraft, and whatever brain trust they've come up with in that room. Robin Glazer asking questions. Okay, we want to be a woke franchise now. Okay, good luck. Good luck ever getting back to the promised land when you want to be weaklings. Sorry. Um, and yes, I know. It was time for Bill Belichick to go, and they ended up with the same record as they did with Bill a year ago. But it's safe to say that this thing destined to fail from day one, my
And you
friend.
know who makes it scot-free out of this? Elliot Wolf.
Yeah, and that doesn't feel right. That doesn't
No.
feel right. It
Two
doesn't.
years in a row, you have essentially the same team and you have the same record. And you wanted to say, oh, it's because Bill put us in this position. Well, he's gone. So now who do you blame? You blame the new coach who had no decision making whatsoever?
I don't think you do. And the other thing that Bill Belichick was so kind to point out when he was on, I think Pat McAfee this week, was that yeah, or I don't know who interviewed him, but I think that's what it was. But he basically said he had way less influence on the process of building the roster after 2020, and that would coincide with Elliott Wolf coming to New England. Um, I kind of sort of believe it. And at the same time, I don't totally believe it. But there's one thing that I would like to point out. In Belichick's last draft, he did draft two decent receivers at the end of the day, didn't he? He did end up drafting like a slot receiver in a number three, basically, with Kayshon Boutte and Demario Douglas. But revisionist history, I still think they've mocked the Rooney Rule here by quickly sweeping under the rug and interviewing two guys that really are actual qualified candidates, certainly more so than Gerard Mayo by a lot. Um, they would still do a better job than Gerard Mayo, but Mike Vrabel scheduled to be the guy on Thursday, and the widespread belief, it is no secret that this is Vrabel's job. I really wish that they would interview Ben Johnson, another offensive coordinator like freaking Cliff Kingsbury, but that would mean, God forbid, you got to make Mike Vrabel wait a few weeks. So I don't know. Have we drowned this thing enough? Have we thrown enough gasoline on this thing, or do we want to keep piling on? Because it's been a solid 20 minutes here.
Yeah, I mean, I'm sure we could go deeper, but it's not going to heal any wounds at this point. You know what I mean?
Not at all. So that's it. Pat's 4-13, one and done. Gerard Mayo. By the time we get on here next week, I am like 99.9999999% sure that we'll be talking about Mike Vrabel as the next head coach of the New England Patriots. So there's that. Now, usually Black Monday, which is just it's a terrible term, right? Whatever. But in the NFL, it just means the day after the season ends. There's usually a ton of coaching firings. Well, there's only been three this year. There's been the one we mentioned with Mayo. The Jacksonville Jaguars also fired Doug Peterson. He was 22 and 29 with a 1-1 playoff record. That was in the 2022 postseason. And the
They
Raiders,
should have even won that playoff game.
what's that?
They should have even won that playoff game.
Well, they did. So there you go.
That was Brandon Staley for the Chargers. Oh, what a joke he
Being
was.
an idiot. He's another one that's already long gone. Fired in the middle of last year. Former Chargers head coach Brandon Staley. And the Raiders have fired Antonio Pierce, who went 9-17, but he was 5-4 as the interim head coach in 2023. First question. And then we're gonna get to how we order the six job openings that are available. Is the Jacksonville job an attractive job to you? If you were a prospective head coach, would you be interested in that job?
Well, see, I'm surprised Ben Johnson didn't take a look at that job. If he believes, because like Jared Goff, when Jared Goff got traded from LA, a lot of people thought like he was done. He was going to be a bust. Ben Johnson turned him into a very good upper echelon quarterback. He is considered one of the better quarterbacks in the league right now.
He'll get some MVP votes.
If you believe Trevor Lawrence isn't a bust and you're an offensive head coach, you probably think that job looks pretty nice. You got decent skill players. Their defense isn't awful. I think they suffered this year from not holding the ball enough. But I think if you're an offensive head coach and you think Trevor Lawrence is the guy, I think you like that job. If you think Trevor Lawrence is a bust, then no, I don't think it looks very good at all.
Yeah, I'm kind of with you on that. I will say that the Jaguars did request to interview Ben Johnson. I don't know. I don't believe he's responded to it, but I know that they had a list of guys that they put out right on Twitter or whatever, X, whatever the hell you want to call it. It is what it is. They put out a list of coordinators, and every single one of them would be a first-time head coach. So
Bobby Slowick on that list?
Bobby Slowick's on that list. Liam Cohen is on that list. So yeah, there were definitely a few. I believe that list was like 6 or 7 deep. So they're looking for a young head coach to work with a young quarterback. Um, I don't think Lawrence is a bust yet, but it's getting close. You know what I mean? I think you gotta
We're definitely flirting with it at this point.
you gotta win 10 or 11 games here in one of the next 2 seasons, I think, if you're Trevor Lawrence. Because I will say this, the Jags roster, it's not that bad.
It's
Not a
not.
bad roster.
It's not.
Not a bad roster. I have actually. We'll get to this in a minute. We'll get back to the Jags in a minute here, because there are 6 head coaching jobs available. Josh and I are going to go down the. We're going to rank them based on how desirable we think they are. So that's coming up in just a second. The second question is the Raiders related question. They have Tom Brady as a minority owner in the Raiders. By the way, another big F up by the Crafts on that one. A huge screw up. Why would you not have Tom Brady in here as part of your friggin' brain trust when you had every opportunity to do it? It makes no sense, and I hate that. Reportedly, Tom Brady's going to have a big say. Sorry.
Hey, does that, going not to rehash feelings from 5 years ago, but does that make you think that Kraft was the one who said, no, you're not coming back?
That actually came out today too, and I was debating including that in the show. But apparently, supposedly, I mean, because we haven't heard this. I mean, it's been 5 years and we haven't heard this. But supposedly, the contract offer from Bill Belichick to Tom Brady was a 3-year offer, which would have taken him into those first 2 years in Tampa Bay, which is what ended up happening. And supposedly Kraft nixed that and they went year to year. It was Kraft that nixed that. That doesn't surprise me when you look at it how you just phrased it, because why wouldn't you want him to be here in any kind of capacity that you could have him in? I don't get it. Can I ask my original question? Or do you
Brady
want
to come on Brady night, right? They had to pay him,
I think so. Yeah.
right? So,
think
like,
so.
if that bridge wasn't burned, don't you think he would have just came back?
Yeah. Yeah. No, there's still hard feelings there for sure. I think it was, I just don't, if you're Kraft, like, he's made so many questionable decisions. We're not even going to talk about the ones he made in 2021 to go out in public when he could have just not done that whole thing. And then, what an idiot this is. He's really just because you got money doesn't mean you're that smart, guys. Hate to break it to you. Reportedly, Brady has a big say in who the Raiders will hire as their next head coach. Could it be Vrabel? Could he steal Vrabel away? I believe Vrabel's going to interview with them. Would Brady and the Raiders pay Bill Belichick's $10 million buyout clause from UNC to bring him in as their next head coach? And most likely it's not going to be either one of them. But what do you make of that situation?
Man, that would like what we were just talking about with the Crafts. That would like
Oh, man.
that would end the debate because then everyone would know it was definitely Kraft that. Because I mean, to this day, there are still Patriots fans, talk shows that still say, "Who was it?" Well, if
Yeah.
he paid $10 million to get Belichick over there, then obviously they're fine.
Yeah, right. And no, and I mean, listen, Belichick and Brady have been going on the Let's Go podcast with Jim Gray. They've been doing it all year. I think Tom and Bill are fine. I
Mm.
think maybe at the end of the day, they probably sat down and had a conversation like, hey, man, hey, Bill, I know you were always hard on me and all this, but you were never the real a-hole. You know what I mean? Like, because at least Bill was upfront in your face about like being an a-hole to you, where it seems like Robert Kraft, just like Gerard Mayo, bit of a knife in the back situation, don't you think?
Yeah, it
So
seems that way for sure.
it does, man. This has been great. It's turned into a huge railing on Robert Kraft, and yet I still wear this hat on the top of my head. But it is in black and white for a reason, folks. We're not donning a colored Pats cap until they start doing something. Oh, okay. 6 head coaching jobs are available, my friend. It's New England, Chicago, Vegas, Jacksonville, the New York Jets, and New Orleans Saints. What order would you rank them in terms of desirability? If you want, I can go first. It's up to you because I know I'm kind of putting you on the spot here a little bit.
I would honestly say the Jets. No, I'm kidding.
Oh, well, you did have them winning the division this year.
Yeah, yeah.
Hmm.
No, I say Jets would be 6, especially
Oh,
if you plan on again. So right
if
now,
you roll Rodgers back out there, I'd agree with you. Yeah,
quarterback in flux, right? You have no quarterback
right.
again. Um, that that roster has kind of been decimated by Rodgers with the GM, and we're moving this guy. Now you got Devontae Adams, and you got all this Rodgers carryover on the team. I would say first is probably Chicago. I think that's first. Next, Raiders picking fifth or
Six.
sixth. So that,
Jacksonville
I mean,
fifth, Raiders sixth.
I don't know if you're going to be able to get a quarterback at that position.
I think they're gonna. I think they trade up for sure.
Right? Like you might
Yeah.
have to trade up and lose some assets there. But I mean that the roster isn't terrible. Like it's not a terrible roster. I mean you still have Max Crosby. Skill players aren't awful. I would probably say Chicago, probably the Patriots, because again, I don't think the Patriots are going to take much turnaround. You have a quarterback. If you have a quarterback, your team has a chance. You know what I mean? Like the league has proven that, right? You added Jaden Daniels this year, your team turns around. You know what I mean?
I know you're on a roll right now. I don't want to cut you off. Sitting here a year later, knowing that we have that quarterback, I do feel like a hell of a lot better than I did last year as a fan.
Right, for sure. I'm sure you do as a
Yep.
Patriots fan. So
Yep.
I would say Chicago, the Patriots. If you believe in Lawrence, I think they're third. Um, again, the Raiders are tough because you don't have a quarterback and you need to draft one, and I don't think 6 gets you one. Right? So
I agree.
you're gonna have to trade that 6th pick and maybe either a next year's pick or a second or third round this year.
Sure.
Or they might want a player. So, and who are you trading with? Tennessee can't trade down. Cleveland can't trade down, right? They need quarterbacks. So it's like, where are you going? You're going to have to
Giants
trade.
need a quarterback too.
Exactly. So you're going to have to trade.
What are you going to trade up to 4? Then who are you going to get?
Exactly. So they're in a really tough spot. So I would probably say them 4. Like I said, the Jets are 6. Like,
Wow.
who wants that job? Who wants that job?
And then are the Jets.
And then the Saints, again, because they might need a quarterback if you don't believe in Derek Carr,
They need a quarterback.
right? I know you don't.
They
I'm
need
not-
a quarterback.
I'm not completely.
No,
but I mean,
he's totally
actually-
cooked, son. They need a quarterback.
You might be able to switch the Jets and Saints because Kamara,
I have him switched. Yeah.
right? Because Kamara's on a lame duck year this year, right?
I think Kamara's on his way. He's on. I mean, he still was good this year at times, but man, like really good at times. But
Yeah,
man, when's he gonna hit that wall?
well, I mean, we keep saying that about Derrick Henry. I
Yeah,
mean,
built different though. Built a
I
little
will say
different.
different breeds, but Kamara just seems to keep balling. You know what I mean? We
Balls.
say the same thing about Mike Evans. Like you said at the beginning of the year, like every year you're waiting for that hat to fall, and then he gets 1,000 yards again. You know,
I mean,
sometimes they
yeah,
find a way to do it.
he should have been 5 yards short this year, but yeah, yeah.
Well, he also missed a couple games, or
Right, exactly. So he would have had it. Yeah, all right, whatever. Jeez, man. Now
but
we're
so I
getting in the
think you
weeds
could
here.
probably, I would say 5 and 6 are kind of tied. I would say those like either one of those bad situations because you need a quarterback and you're the Saints. You're going to need skill players. I do like the Jets skill players better, so maybe I will switch them.
Yeah. All right. All right. I don't really know what you just said at the end there. I'm not really sure.
I'm moving the Saints to 6. I'm moving the Saints to 6.
Okay, so we agree on everything except the top two spots then. I think the Patriots job is the most desirable, and I'll tell you why. It's very simple. It's very
Homer,
yeah, it's gonna
Homer.
make me seem like a bit of a homer. Chicago, right now, definitely better roster. I will give you that. Chicago is also a dead zone hell for quarterbacks and coaches in general. But the reason I say that, and yeah, we talked about how Elliott Wolf's not really adequate and he survives all this crap for his Patriots general manager. You have Drake May, ton of upside quarterback here. Looks like he can do everything. The most cap space in football. The most.
Well,
This can be,
that's if John and Robert want to spend it.
but they have right. Okay, so and they have the number 4 pick, which isn't terrible. Maybe you can do something with that. I would say just go get Kelvin Banks at that point. Get your tackle situation figured out, but that's just me. Some people want this receiver out of Arizona. He looks pretty damn good too.
McMillan, is that his
Yes,
name?
McMillan. Yeah, he looks pretty good too.
I was hoping he falls to the Niners. That's what I was hoping.
Yeah, I can't see the Pats taking a receiver at 4, just to be completely honest. But um,
No, Elliot Wolf will take what Jalen Polk over Lad McConkey.
oh my God.
I'm
They
sorry.
made that. They traded too. That was a
pouring
trade.
salt on you. I'm sorry.
That was a trade. Yeah, no, I know that's uh McConkey's not even one of like those typical like let's say gringo wide receivers that is just a slot guy. He does everything well.
Oh, he's so good. I love watching him.
So good. Um so for me it's if they spend. Yeah, right. Let's do the big if game. If the Patriots are willing to spend money, you have Drake May, you have the cap space, you don't have that bad of a pick, although it would have been great if you had the number 1 pick, but stupid idiocy. Chicago, I definitely have it too. Caleb Williams, not a lost cause yet. I don't think there's a ton of upside with him. And the roster's really good besides the offensive line. I think the Bears have a very good roster. Their skill position players are outstanding, although I know that Keenan Allen's probably only got a couple years left, but they're very good. And then after that, I agree with you on everything. Jacksonville, I think a motivated Trevor Lawrence will be a lot better. They have a good running back room. They have a great receiver room. And their defense played really well down the stretch this year, too. Granted, they're meaningless games against bad opponents, but still. Vegas, I'm with you. I think they're number 4. They're probably going to trade up, but who's going to trade with them? You're going to have to make it a hell of an offer, right? The only other stuff I have in here for Vegas is Brady as an owner is a plus, and then I have Brock Bowers, Brock Bowers, Brock Bowers. So
kid is good.
Kid is quite good, but when Max Crosby, I guess, and all that too. Then I have the Jets, and for the same reason that you ended up flipping at the end, the Jets. There's a ton of talent all over the roster.
Yeah.
But bringing back Aaron Rodgers is going to send them right back to hell again. So I really think that. Oh well, I don't know if I want to. Just tell them to piss off. Tell them to go pound sand. You've done everything. You screwed up the trajectory of our franchise by forcing us to fire what I thought was a decent head coach. You got the GM blown out of there after he was making all the decisions for the GM anyway. Get Rodgers' ass the hell out of there, and maybe the Jets' job is a decent one. And then New Orleans. One thing that you didn't mention with New Orleans, they are in serious trouble with the salary cap, like big time trouble with the salary
I did not
cap.
know that. Where's
Big
all this
time.
money tied up?
A bunch of dead money. It's a bunch of dead money. A lot of it's in Derek Carr too. So I have in here not a super deep roster, and they have to find a way to get out of the Derek Carr situation. But the old saying goes, the NFL salary cap, it can always be manipulated. So I mean, New Orleans could turn it around in a couple years, conceivably. If you remember all the way back to week 3, we were sitting here and saying, New Orleans might be the best team in the NFL.
They looked great.
They did. They scored 91 points in the first 2 weeks of the season. So
They
far,
didn't
been
like
very
didn't win a
great.
game for like a month.
Yeah. No, right. So my friend, we have done the coaching vacancies, the little mini carousel that we have this year, because normally it's like 8, 9 openings. We only have
Usually it's
6
pretty
this
big.
year.
And everyone, like, I don't know if you remember, like when Belichick didn't get a job last year,
Right.
everyone was talking about, oh, the cycle this year is going to be big. And it's like,
Well,
technically, Dallas is an open job, correct?
that's a good point, but so okay, so just to finish this discussion up, we didn't mention the Dallas Cowboys because technically Mike McCarthy hasn't been let go of, but his contract is up at the end of the league year. So I think it's been reported that Chicago requested permission to talk to McCarthy, and Jerry Jones denied that. So it looks to me, I would say based on that alone, I'd say McCarthy's going to be back with the Dallas
Yeah,
Cowboys.
and I
That's
mean, for
just
the
me.
most part, Jerry Jones takes usually 10 years too long to fire someone.
Oh,
So,
look at it. Jason Garrett lasted for a decade, bro.
yeah.
Good job, guys. That's all Jason Garrett did for 10 years, and he lasted 10 years. So I think McCarthy gets another shot. I think the big reason for that is pretty simple. They handed Dak Prescott the largest AAV contract in NFL history in
And
right before we.
they played for him that last month of the season, it
Oh,
looked
they
like.
did. I think the last 6 weeks they played for him, going all the way back to that crazy game in Washington. They really showed up. I mean, Philly smoked them twice, but Philly's a better team.
Hmm.
Um, you can't beat Philly with no quarterback. I mean, Cooper Rush showed well at times, but
He's
they
still
played.
he's still a backup. You know what I mean?
Yeah, he's back up. They
He's
played
not
very
taking any
hard for.
starting job.
I think that if the Cowboys had rolled over and quit on Mike McCarthy in those last 4 to 6 weeks, yeah, he'd probably be gone. Probably. Because like you said, Jerry's extremely patient for a guy that's really old. So I don't know what to make of that, but the only thing I can say to make of that is I think that McCarthy is going to get at least one more year in Dallas, which nobody really saw coming, right? So that was some really good stuff on Coach and Roundtable, my friend. We just pulled about 40 minutes between me ranting about the Pats and then go. This is good stuff, man. Thank you for Josh Morris is on the show again, ladies and gentlemen. He's back. Say hello. Say hello. Say something.
Hello.
All right. Well, that was unnecessary by me. So, on to this weekend. We have playoff football. We don't have to talk about so many teams now. There's only 14 of them left, and 2 of them are on a bye this week. The Detroit Lions and remind me of the one seed in the AFC because I'm an idiot and having a brain fart.
No, you can't.
Kansas City Chiefs,
I was gonna
duh.
say you're screwing.
Duh. The Chiefs at 15-2. I suppose if they showed up the last weekend, they could have went 16-1, but they rested all of their starters and let the Broncos get right in. So we have got 6 games on the docket this week, my friend. To be honest with you, most of them look pretty good to me.
Playoff football, they're all good.
Always good, right? We will start with the Houston Texans hosting the 10-7 Houston Texans, winners of the AFC South. They will host the 5 seed Los Angeles Chargers. Josh nailed that prediction at the beginning of the season.
Yes.
Superchargers. Yeah. They went 11-6. Josh said they'd have 10 wins. I thought they'd only have 7. Good call by you, my friend. The Chargers are currently 3-point favorites at Houston. The over-under is 42.5. This game is at Saturday on 4:30. And did you know every year that the Texans have made the playoffs in the wild card round, they have played on Saturday at 4:30 p.m. in the wild card round.
Interesting.
That is the truth. That is fact, not opinion. That is a fact. Chargers 3-point favorites here, Josh. 42.5 is the total. By the way, guys, Josh, if you'll come back on the show with me every week this playoffs, but even if you can't do it, you can always give me your picks. We're gonna keep track of our outright picks, and then we'll see who's better at the end. And then if Josh ends up with a better record than me at the end of the Super Bowl, then it's his show now, and we'll have to rename it, and I'll just disappear forever, and everybody will be happy. But anyway, outright, what do you think of this game? No betting anything, although we will do bets at the end of this segment,
You
folks.
gonna make me say it?
On the count of 3, 1, 2, 3. Superchargers. Yeah, well, not a surprise there. I have also got the Chargers. We think the Chargers will roll into Houston and win that game. What give me
Especially because Houston's limping in. Their
right.
last a month and a half, they looked awful.
Yes. Yes,
Especially
they
because
did.
I don't think we completely blame CJ Stroud, but he's definitely had a regression this year.
Yes.
And he's also lost, Stephon Diggs.
Yeah, they lost two of their top three receivers, and both of those receivers are pretty good.
Yeah, he lost Tank Dell. He was without Nico for a while.
Yes.
Mixon, I think,
Slow it down.
not used to the workload that he had this year because they were running him 20, 25. I don't ever
Yeah, I
remember,
think he had 30 a couple of games.
right? Like, I don't ever remember Cincinnati running the ball that much.
Not that much.
So, I think he's starting to wear down a little. He's kind of like, damn, this workload, this whole running back one thing is kind of tough, you know?
Yeah, he's also, he's got some miles on him too.
Yeah,
Mixon.
for sure. For
He's been
sure.
around. Um,
And I've been preaching it all year. Like their defense has holes in it. They're great at getting to the quarterback. They led in sacks most of the year. I don't know if they finished the season with the most, but for most of the year they were number one in sacks. And but they just allow too many big plays. I think Ladd is going to have a game for the Chargers. So we'll see. But I think the Chargers are just a better team.
I would agree with that about the Chargers just frankly being a better team. The Chargers also have had no problems winning on the road at all this season. They're very well coached. I will say this, both of these teams are very well coached. But yeah, I think you're right. Houston had an early bye week. They've been limping badly into these playoffs. They did win at Tennessee in week 18 in a meaningless game. I don't even think that their starters played in that game. So, yeah, we both like the Chargers there to start off Wild Card Weekend. I will give you what I think as far as betting goes in just a bit, and we'll see if Josh agrees with me. Next one up is on Saturday at 8 p.m. It's for the third time this year. It's always a treat when we can get an AFC North game for the third time in a season, isn't it? So we've got the Pittsburgh Steelers, who kind of went backwards at the end of the year, 10-7. I believe they are now 9.5 point underdogs, Josh, and they are at Baltimore, who went 12-5. I believe these two teams split the season series, if I'm not mistaken. The over-under is 44. Again, Pittsburgh 9.5 point dogs on the road here. What do you make of this one?
I I mean, we were for the most part, we always were saying Baltimore was such a good team all year long. Pittsburgh surprised us. And then I think they came back to earth in the last, what did they lose? Four out of their last six or something like that. Like it was another team limping into the playoffs. I think their defense overperformed for most of the year. Good defense, don't get me wrong, but I feel like the offense really never has the time of possession advantage. Puts a lot of wear and tear on a defense all year long. And I think if Baltimore does what they say every year they're going to do and not get pass happy and stick to their game and run the ball like they did against the Chiefs, oh, wait, no, you passed it a bunch of times. If they stick with Derrick Henry, I think they're going to kill him.
So and I think all great points, by the way, and I'll add on to that in just a second. But just to follow up what you said, they lost 5 out of their last 7 and 4 in a row to end the season. So Pittsburgh was 8-2. They wind up 10-7.
Yeah.
There's that.
Like
Now,
they had a chokehold on the North.
oh, they did, yeah, because Baltimore had a. It feels like Baltimore had a really, really way harder schedule for some reason,
Mhm.
and like I remember sitting here with you, said I'm like Baltimore should have the best record in the league this year. That's what I bet on that. Silly me. Um, but yeah, I mean, and to your point about Pittsburgh, not a lot of time of possession. I think that they are weak across the board on offense. Russell Wilson started off really, really well. I think he threw for 400 something yards at Cincinnati in that overtime game that they lost to him at one point. He did. I know he threw for over 400, but it's still, whatever, 36-year-old Russell Wilson or whatever it is, 35-year-old. He hasn't been the same since that last year in Seattle. He wasn't the same. So this is 3 years removed from that. On the flip side, I don't think that they run their best running back enough. They play Najee Harris way too much. Jaylen Warren, I know he's smaller, but he's a better running back. He's more dynamic. They only have one wide receiver on offense, and sometimes he doesn't show up. In George Pickens, sometimes you said, I'm George Pickens. I don't care. I'm Pickens my
I,
spots.
I don't
Not
know
showing
if
up.
it was it did they play Baltimore on Thursday night or was it a Saturday game?
It was a Saturday. Come on, man. Put me on the spot.
Well, I mean, dude, they that week of Christmas and then they put so many games in that freaking those 2 weeks,
Yeah, but the Saturday. Yeah. The second time they played.
right? It was Saturday, right?
No. Because Pittsburgh was at Kansas City and Baltimore was playing
Well, that
Houston.
was Christmas.
That was Christmas. Yeah.
And then the week of New Year's, weren't they? They fake, or was it Thursday night? They played
Uh,
week 17. They played Baltimore week 17
no. Hold on. Now it's gonna. I just had the page open too.
because Pickens dropped like a bunch of passes in that game. He was, whining and complaining on the sideline. It's like he takes himself right out of games sometimes, and they need him. They need him to be elite.
They did play. No, hold on. So it was Saturday, December 21st that they played each other. It was the week before Christmas, and Baltimore beat them 34-17.
And then they played.
They played the week before. They played Sunday, November 17th, and Pittsburgh won that game 18-16 at home.
Yeah, all field goals, I think.
Pretty much, yeah. That's what it looks like to me. They had they both had like exactly 300 yards of offense in that game.
Yeah, it was a gross game.
Yeah, pretty gross. So I'm gonna guess that this is a roundabout way of saying we like Baltimore this week pretty handily.
Yeah, I like I said, I think the Steelers have overperformed. I mean, at the beginning of the year, I didn't even have them to win 8 games. So I think they've overperformed a little. I think if Baltimore sticks with the run game, I mean, don't get me wrong, Lamar's having a great year passing, but Zay Flowers not being there, that's gonna hurt a lot. I hope they stick to the run and beat up on them.
Yeah, I mean, I think that's a pretty good bet. We will get into the betting portion of it as well. 9.5 points is the biggest spread of the weekend. First game on
too. Like that's.
I'm sorry.
It's a divisional game too. Like these guys have seen each other so much. It's hard to bet a 9.5 point spread.
Sure is. We'll get to what we think we're gonna do with that in a moment here. Although all my bets are locked in, and I actually got it at 10 points. So, first game on Sunday. We have 3 on Sunday. Sunday's going to be a good day of football. The Denver Broncos, 10-7, will travel. The 6th-seeded Denver Broncos. 6th-seeded?
Yes. No, 7, right?
Yeah, because Buffalo's the 2. Yeah. Right. Pittsburgh's the 6. Yeah, I got it. So Denver, 10-7. At Buffalo, 13-4. The over-under is 47 in this game. And Josh, a high spread, 8.5-point spread, 8.5-point favorites are the Buffalo Bills. I don't really like that number for Buffalo, but what do you think happens in this game?
I mean, Buffalo's been really good all year. Their defense is
been iffy at times.
It's wishy-washy for sure. But I still think they're a much better team.
Okay, fair enough. So you like Buffalo?
I mean, I don't know if I like them at that number because Denver's defense has been pretty damn good. So, I mean, if you like held a gun to my head and said you got to bet something, I'd probably take the under in Buffalo. Who knows what the weather's going to be Sunday?
Under 47. Yeah, that's a good point. So we'll agree on one thing and disagree on the other for that. But I do have Buffalo. I like Buffalo outright. I will say this, that I think Denver's only lost one game by more than one score this year. So I have Denver at plus 8.5, but I like Buffalo outright over Denver. A rematch from a Brazil game in week 1 for the next one in the NFC. It's the Green Bay Packers, 11-6. Apparently 11 wins get you the 7th seed nowadays, unless you win a division. But 11-6, third in the NFC North. They are at Philadelphia. Philly 14-3. Green Bay 4.5-point underdogs in this one, and the over-under is 45. I know you haven't been a big Philly believer over the course of the year. Have they changed your mind as they've come down the stretch, or where are you at with Philly?
Yeah, I mean, again, we talked about it all year. They kind of had a cupcake schedule. They did beat the Ravens, but like other than the Ravens, like if
beat the Packers.
Packers week 1 in Brazil, like
that was a crappy field. Yeah,
that was a weird game. It was very weird.
Odd. Yeah, it was strange.
I think Jordan Love had like 3 turnovers. Like I
think
he
had surprise. Yeah,
2 picks and a fumble or something like that.
End of the game, he fumbled. They thought he blew his knee out. Everybody was freaking out, and then he was fine.
The Eagles have thrived off of turnovers this year defensively.
Correct.
So I think it'll come down to a turnover battle. I think the Eagles will win, but I think it should be a pretty pretty close game.
Yeah, I'd agree with you on it being a tight game. Yeah, this is one of the yeah. So just to your point, just looking at the turnovers, yeah, big time, big time.
I think
10,
they might have one of the
12,
best differentials in the NFL.
14, and another 10. They had 24 takeaways in their last 10 games.
Yeah, yeah, they've thrived on turnovers. So I think if you can limit that, if you're Matt LaFleur, that's probably what he's preaching. Like
Fewer.
we gotta hold the ball. Like if they control the ball, I think it'll be a really close game. And then you gotta take Saquon out of the game. Make Jalen beat you. Make him beat you.
I agree. I think that's really kind of the way to beat Philly. I realized that they got to a Super Bowl without Saquon Barkley a couple years ago, but they at
But,
the end of the day they needed
but it
that
was also the
back.
same situation. Their defense was thriving off turnovers again.
Right, which sometimes you can get away with that and sometimes you can't. You know what I
Yeah,
mean? So I will say that 10 game span that I just told you, there was only one game where they had no turnovers created.
yeah.
So I'm with you. So far, we're in lockstep here. As far as the money line goes, I barely like Philly to squeak it out, but that is one of two games that I did not bet the spread this weekend. So we both like
What you
Philly
get
here.
You get them at minus 235. That's what they are right now.
That's what whatever I forget. Don't have my phone on me, so I didn't put what I got them at.
Yeah.
Um,
I mean,
but
minus 235 isn't that bad. That's not too much juice.
I mean, I was kind of stupid about this the way I did it. So I bet the Saturday games as a parlay, the Sunday games as a parlay, and then I just did straight just one standalone with the under and the winner on Monday. So um I've got that in here. We'll get to it in 1 second. We've got two more games left, my friend. This one might be the only one we disagree on, but we'll see. The Washington Commanders.
Soon to be the soon to be the Skins again.
Yes, it could very well be the Redskins again, and I hope it is, and I think a lot of people do too.
So
Uh,
my cousin, I saw him at the wake the other night, and he's a huge Skins fan, huge Skins fan. And supposedly they're fighting just for the logo to be back. Like that's almost a done deal. So we'll see. The Blackfoot tribe, I guess, is like really fighting for them to bring that stuff back.
yeah, because it was honoring, the whatever the chief or whatever the guy the guy that ended up on the logo. It was supposed to be about honoring him.
Yep.
You know what I mean? So it's just because that whole PCBS debate always just bothers me. Like you can still have the Chicago Blackhawks, the Kansas City Chiefs, and you can have the Atlanta Braves, but you can't have the Cleveland Indians and the Washington Redskins. Like get the hell out of here with that shit. It makes no sense to me at all. But this game in Tampa Bay, Washington, 12-5, a team that you thought was going to choke when they were 9-5. They responded by going 3-0 down the stretch. Legit team here, my friend. They are 3-point dogs at Tampa, and it's the highest over under of the week. 50 points. Tampa Bay 10-7 and at home. Washington 12-5 on the road. 3-point dogs. 50 points the over under in this one. What do you think is going to happen here?
I'm going to be hammering that plus 140 is what I'm going to be doing.
You're taking the Washington money line.
Oh hell yeah.
So am I.
I don't think the Bucks secondary is decimated right now.
Yes.
And I just don't think their defense is going to be able to handle Daniels.
I agree with you. I really do. It looked to me like it looked for a while like the Bucks were going to lose a must-win game to the Saints
Yeah, they were
last
down for a
weekend.
lot of that game.
You don't know what you're getting out of that team. It seems like week to week, like because they were on fire for the 3 weeks before that, but then they got killed out. And did they beat the crap out of the Chargers in LA too? Like
Yeah,
so, just like you don't even know what you're getting from that Tampa Bay team. That's going to be a hell of a game.
and
I like
Baker at any minute Baker can do
turn
something
back into a pumpkin. Yeah,
that
exactly.
makes you go.
Baker giveth and Baker taketh. Yeah.
Yeah,
So there's not going to be much debating going on here. If I'm keeping track, we're going to have the same record unless we differ on this last one here. But it is the Minnesota Vikings. Imagine going 14 wins and you are playing on wild card weekend, baby. You are playing as a 5 seed.
well, that's what happens when you don't show up in the biggest game of the year.
Which, yeah, we caught that one together. That was I thought it was going to be a much more interesting game to watch. It turns out that the Lions dominated that game last Sunday night. It puts a little bit of scare in you if you like the Vikings like I have all season. That's why I had a really hard time going back and forth with myself on this game. Minnesota is a 1 point favorite currently. 1 point. That's it. So at the Rams, who are 10-7, the Rams obviously played very well down the stretch to get to this point. Rams win the NFC West at 10-7. 48 points is the over-under in this one. Do you have a grasp on this game?
I think Minnesota should kill him personally.
You should kill them.
I think they should kill him. It should be at least a touchdown game. Like
Interesting.
if you don't go into LA now, LA again, being a Niners fan,
LA.
I've watched a lot of those LA games.
By the way, hopefully their stadium's not burned down. Like,
oh yeah,
what's going on with those wildfires?
They had the TGL there last night. I watched that, of course. So that's in SoFi.
Ah, well, how was that, by the way?
It was crazy.
Weird.
As someone who golfs and like has golfed on a simulator, that thing is incredible. It is massive.
I played Top Golf. Isn't that close?
Well, imagine you were playing Top Golf and then you.
Oh, I saw the preview of it. I mean, we're getting way off track here, but I saw that it's just like a giant friggin' simulator. You're like surrounded by.
So supposedly, if you've ever been to a simulator, it's 50 times the normal simulator. It's 50 times as big.
So you liked it.
It looked incredible. They had real grass these guys were hitting off of. They were making real putts. It was awesome.
All right, well, maybe we'll do golf in April, okay?
That's fine.
Hey, the Masters, man. I want to talk about the Masters. I love watching the Masters. Rams, so do you think that Minnesota buy a touchdown here?
Yeah, because Minnesota fans are probably going to travel to this game. I mean, they paid what, $2 million for tickets to go to Detroit and watch them get their butts kicked.
Yeah, that's true. A little bit shorter of a commute, though.
Yes, it is. But LA has always been known to not be a football town. Like whenever the Niners play there, again, short commute, but it's like dominated by red. Like, right. So I think you're going to see a lot of Vikings fans, and I just think the Vikings are a much better team.
I think you might be right here, and I'm just looking at how I thought the Rams kind of finished the year a lot stronger than this, but they really didn't. So they did win 5 out of their last 6, and obviously they dropped the game to Seattle that they really didn't need at the end of the season, but they won 5 in a row before that. But check this out. We all remember the Buffalo game where it was like 44-42. It was unbelievable offense all game back and forth. Did you know that they scored 19 points or less in 3 of the other 4 wins, and the other one was a 21-14 win over the Saints? The Rams really haven't been playing that well down the stretch.
No, they kicked 4 field goals against the Niners, the only game all year that had no touchdowns.
Oh, that's right. That was that miserable rainy game where I bet a bunch of money and I wanted to hang myself after that one. That was terrible, that game. So, I'm going Minnesota as well. I'm obviously laying the point because it's a better price.
Yeah.
So, it's 1 point. Why wouldn't you bet the point? It's -10, 110 versus -115.
I mean, maybe buy the half,
Yeah, maybe, but I don't think that Sportsbook Rhode Island doesn't like you to buy points in a parlay because they're a-holes. So, hey, let's do our bets real quick, and then we're going to get out of here. We're just over the hour mark, folks. It's the Toronto. We're back finally, and we will be back every week moving forward for quite some time. So don't think that I'm just going to regularly take weeks off. All right. So do you have your bets ready to go for this week yet? All of mine are in. So
are you talking about the bets I'm actually going to make?
Go ahead. That's what we want.
I mean, I haven't thought.
But
I'm a procrastinator, so I like to do it Sunday or Saturday right before the game.
I understand. No, I was just saying. I'm just writing down that all of our picks were the same.
Because I was gonna say. So we don't really need to go over them because we're in lockstep there. I mean, I think at this point in the playoffs, like you've seen so much football at this point, you kind of expect now it's the playoffs, so it never happens. But like you expect certain outcomes to happen according to what you've watched for 18 weeks.
Right. So tell me what you want to do, because then I'll just tell you what I've already got. Unless you want me to start.
Yeah, go ahead.
All right. So Saturday, let's do the 2 Saturday games. Then we'll do 3 Sunday games. Then we'll do the Monday game, right? So Saturday, I like the Chargers to cover that 3-point spread. I think the Chargers should win that game by, yeah, 4 or 5 touchdowns, something like that. And I'll take the over 42 and a half just because it's a super low over under. But that's just me. And I've got that coupled with, at the time, Pittsburgh was a 10-point dog. I have Pittsburgh plus 10 and over 43 and a half for that game as well. I feel like the overs, as I'm kind of saying it out loud, I'm kind of thinking that maybe one of those is a bad idea, but that's what I've got for Saturday. What say you?
Yeah, the -3, and especially because it's plus money. I think that's a really good bet. I can't see them winning by under a field goal. I just think Houston is coming into the playoffs so weak. 42 and a half, that's in the NFL, that's not much. I mean, that's, 24-20. You cover and you get your over. You know what I mean? So, I'm definitely, I like those two bets. And we were saying 9.5, 10 points is a lot in a playoff game. Like that's a lot.
And a divisional game too.
Right. You know what I mean? So I think you have to take the Steelers if you're gonna bet. Like I'd be so nervous because then if the Ravens do come out and do their thing, they could kill them. You know what I mean? Especially because the way the Steelers have been again limping into the playoffs.
Yeah.
So that to me, man, anytime a spread is like that, I get a little get a little tight, you know?
Yeah. Yeah.
And then the 43 and a half, it's just so tough because like is the Steelers offense going to show up? They had a game earlier this year, 18-16. You know what I mean? So
That was these two teams. You're right.
right. So it's like I don't know. And again, what's the weather going to be like in Baltimore? That's another thing to bet this far out. Everything can change. Right? We could have snow in Baltimore.
Yeah, that's why a lot of the sharps like to tell you to bet them really early so you get the best lines. But when it comes down to this time of the year, yeah, there's supposed to be a big snowstorm this week. I don't know exactly what the timing is of it, but I
Right?
feel like
Like
I don't
my wife this morning was like, "Are we on winter storm watch?" And I'm like, "I have."
not yet, but we
I
could.
was like, "I hope not. I hate snow. I don't want to see any of it." So it's like if that does come up the East Coast, Buffalo might get hammered. You know what I mean?
Yeah, it's looking like here in New England, at least in the here in southern New England, we have light snow possible, 30% chance of snow on Saturday. If you
And
want
that's
to
a
do,
Saturday game. Now
but
is it
that would
coming
be
up?
Baltimore and that would be Baltimore, Pittsburgh, and the Houston game doesn't matter about weather, but
No, because they're in a dome. So that's
yes. So not looking at is this today? Yeah, Saturday. They're saying 1 to 3 inches of snow. Well,
great. So that I mean, kicking is going to be difficult. Throwing the ball is going to be difficult.
then
So I mean,
you probably bet the under then.
I like the plus 10, and if it is going to snow, I like the under.
So you'll wait to make that call then, and that's fair enough.
Because I was going to say, if you get good weather, I could definitely see the over 44 for sure.
Yeah, I got it at 43 and a half, but I know it's 44 now. But let's kind of chop through this since we already made our picks and everything. Denver 8.5 point dogs. The over under is 47 against Buffalo. What do you think about that one?
Buffalo has been so good all year. I want to take -8.5. Again, I hate big spreads like that in the playoffs, but I just think the Bills are a better team. And Bo Nix has never been in this situation, never been in a playoff game. I mean, who knows? He could go ball out against that defense, but I don't know. Von Miller, I think he's going to get after it. I think he sees the light at the end of the tunnel right now. I see him getting after Bo Nix all game. So I like Buffalo at -8.5.
Yeah, they're not really expecting much. They're really not. They're saying maybe flurries in that game. It's going to be cold. Um, oh no, they're saying mostly cloudy, just a 20% chance of flurries, and really no wind either. So,
So
that's
good, a good day to throw the ball. Josh Allen, he throws the ball great no matter what the weather is. That guy just he slings it. So I
so
don't think
you like Buffalo and
I'd probably say over.
okay. I'll take Denver covering the 8.5, and I'll take the over as well. Two left on Sunday. Philadelphia is hosting Green Bay. I believe similar weather there, might be a little bit warmer. Um, Philly 4.5 point favorites, I think. And yes, and 40, it's now 45 for the over under. It was 45.5 when I bet it.
Yeah, I would say Green Bay at plus 4.5, but I could see this game being like 28-24, something like that. So I'd probably say over.
Interesting. I'm not. I don't trust the spread on this one either way. That's why I'm taking the Philadelphia money line. And I'm like, for some reason like the under. It's probably silly, but it's probably where I'm going to lose on Sunday. But I like the under 45.5. We just talked about Pittsburgh, Washington and Tampa Bay. We both agreed on the Washington money line at, what did you say it was? Plus 145?
Plus 140 right now.
Well, plus 140, that's a nice bet. I will take that. I also like points in that game. I will take the over 50.5. I'm not sure. I think it's down to 50 right now. What do you think
50
about
on the
that?
dot. And both those defenses aren't elite. So I think that'll be the Commanders' bugaboo. Like that'll be what gets them knocked out. They can't really play exceptional defense. So I definitely see like a mm, definitely the over. I mean, God, we might even see over 55 in that game.
So there you go. So we're in agreement on that. And finally, Vikings at Rams on Monday night. The over-under is still 48 on that one. I like Minnesota, as I already said. I think Minnesota with the 1 point spread, just give me that. Um, they're gonna win, but they're gonna have to win by one. So I guess it would be a push at that point. So that's maybe why you buy the one and you buy the half point if it comes to be a 1 point game. Minnesota -1. I'll take the under 48 on that because, as I said, Rams really not playing that well offensively, and Minnesota, if the other team is coached the right way, they kind of, the Detroit Lions definitely exposed something in Sam Darnold last weekend.
But I don't think, I mean, granted, too, we were talking like while we were watching the game, we were talking about how Detroit's defense hadn't like been there. They
Yeah,
hadn't been
exactly.
the quarterback. They hadn't, and they had him throw like he was never really set while he was
He looked
throwing.
like he was seeing ghosts. I said it that night when you were sitting here with me. He looked like he was seeing ghosts, like that game against the Patriots back in the day.
Yeah, his feet were like never set. He was missing open receivers. Like it wasn't like these guys weren't open.
He wasn't
Like
making the right reads either. So I
either.
mean, they
No.
really confused the crap out of him.
Yeah. So,
Um,
but I don't know if the Rams scheme wise are as good. So we'll see. And again, we were talking about it. Like if Big D wants to get paid, he's got to show he's got
gotta
to
win him. You gotta win this game.
he's got to be because if they see you lose a playoff game essentially last week,
Yeah.
and then you throw up a dud again,
Yep.
no one's going to pay you $50 million.
Nope. You're
So
right.
I think he's motivated. And I think the Vikings might be motivated to be like, dude, we just lost the one. So that's why I think they come out. I do like the under because I like how many games? 3 out of their last 4 under 20 points. Like, and the other one was 21. So I could see
And those
them.
were wins. Those were wins by the
Yeah.
Rams, by the way. So
Well, I mean, Cardinals, Niners, kind of anemic offenses at that point.
yeah, but I don't know. Their defense is playing better. I feel like this is like a 24-17 kind of game, 27, even 27-17, 27-20. That's all under 48. So
Yeah. I would
um
just say like 21-14, 21-10, something like that.
yeah, it might be a little gross, but Josh, I'm gonna just we're just gonna leave it there. We're gonna track our picks throughout the playoffs, folks. We agreed on everything this week, which is kind of a surprise, but probably won't be the case every week. So, my friend, thank you once again for coming on the show. I appreciate it very much. I'm glad that your voice box is back to health, and that's all good.
Yeah, it feels good. A little more tenor in my voice. That's all.
Yeah, that's thank you for the breakdown of that. You sound lovely. That's great. I'll give you that. So anyway, folks, thank you for watching the old Toronto Dome. Next week or two here, we're gonna have a pretty big announcement to make. Although I don't know if we'll announce it. Maybe I'll just tell people like not on the air, But yeah. So please stick with us. We'll be back when it suits me next week. But Probably Tuesday if you can make it, my friend. So we will pencil it in for Tuesday if that is at all possible for you. And folks, please like, subscribe, share, do all that fun stuff. We'll be back real soon. It's the Pteranodome. Have a great day, everybody. And if you're up here or really anywhere across the country right now, at least here back home in the States, stay warm. Peace.